Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers preview. Yes, I'm one of the three Stooges, and I welcome my other Stooges. Let's go over to, is that Tequila Cowboy over there? Bryan Davis, are you hanging out with Todd Haley if you're watching live on YouTube?
What's up, fellas?
My gosh. Okay, Bryan, I don't know what to say anymore. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
I'm tired. I'm good. I'm in that weird summer cycle where I'll do like go to bed early and get 10 hours of sleep one night, and then the next night I can't go to sleep and I'll get 3. So I'm going off the 3 from last night because they replayed the Steelers Bears at 3 a.m. last night on NFL. So
Ooh, never a good thing unless it's 1995.
it was a 95 Steelers Bears.
Oh, then awesome.
I saw someone posted that on a comment. It was a comment section that I saw someone say, "Hey, if anyone's up, was it you, Dave, that wrote that, or was it someone else? I'm not sure." Who said, "Hey, on the NFL Network, they're replaying 95's Bears Steelers game." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be worth checking out."
I saw that, but I think they showed it in the afternoon yesterday, but I didn't catch it. And then I saw it later on, and then I'm like, oh, 3 a.m. Okay, I'll do it.
Paying the price now. All right, so very good. So as everyone knows, if you keep tabs with like BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and other sites that are obviously going to be directly correlated to Steelers news, there is no Steelers news, and that is a tremendous thing for the black and gold faithful out there. There's no rest, there's no suspensions, there's no trades, there's nothing. The players are gone. I assume that they're training, they're probably relaxing, they're getting ready. We are now down to, but by the time most of the people listen or watch this show, it'll be 27 days until the players report to training camp at the end of July. It's coming up quickly, and it'll be pretty interesting to see. Hopefully nothing else happens. But one thing I do want to discuss, and it's an article I'm going to publish tomorrow for the website, and that is a Pro Football Focus. And a lot of people hate PFF. They hate Pro Football Focus. They can't stand it. They think their analytics are skewed. They think that the way that they go about their grading system is flawed. Look, I don't care. They spend so much time. They pour over stats way more than I do, and so they came up with a ranking system. They ranked all 32 NFL rosters from best to worst. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit today because the Steelers, believe it or not, came in eighth on their list. Now, first, before we go into the details of how they describe the Steelers roster, the strengths, the weaknesses, the X factor, I want to tell you guys who came in first through seventh. So listen up, and I want to get your feedback first on the rankings. And do you think it's where they should be, the Steelers are where they should be, or do you think they should be higher, lower, whatever? Number 1, the New England Patriots. Barf. I know. I just threw up in my mouth. Number 2, the Los Angeles Rams. Number 3, the New Orleans Saints. Number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 5, the Chicago Bears. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers. The 7, the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously, number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, guys, without getting into the details yet, what do you think about those rankings? Are they where they should be? Should they be higher?
Well, I'm not sure if we're frozen or not, but I'll go ahead and jump in. Dave, I'm thinking with this whole ranking system, we're looking at 1 through 7. With the NFC, I really can't argue too much. The Steelers are pretty much where I would put them in the AFC because I really like what the Chargers rivalry with the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Those two are 2 of the top teams in the league. They're both getting stronger. One of them's unfortunately going to have to be a wild card, and possibly both of them. But what we're looking at right now, I'm really thinking that that the Steelers are the 4th best team right now in that entire conference. Because of course you've got to put the Patriots there, Dave.
Oh yeah, I mean, as much as sometimes you wonder who is it on the Patriots? Do they really have much of an offensive line? Do they have these other weaknesses? They still manage to win all the time. So I understand that their roster would be pretty high. I don't know that I'd put them number one, even though they won the Super Bowl. Like I said, I thought Kansas City would be higher than that based on just all the love that they get all the time. Maybe it's the question marks with losing Hunt, and then who knows about Tyreek Hill. I know that's
Exactly.
that's really having some effect on I'll talk about it more in Stat Geek of something where it's really having an effect. But I'm just shocked because everyone seems to be so in love with the Cleveland Browns that they didn't have them snuck in there above the Steelers somewhere. Not that I think
Well,
they should be, but that they didn't do it.
well, that's a paper thing right now, and good old paper champions bring back Lee Flowers from way back when against the Broncos. I really think that they kind of got the rankings on the AFC side right. The only team I would probably rocket them above, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC, but definitely the Chicago Bears. So I would probably move them up to about sixth.
Yeah, the Bears for me, and sorry about the technical difficulties. That's out of my control currently. Hopefully that resolves itself and we don't have any issues the rest of the show. For some reason, I'm not sure why the Bears were so high on this list. I just don't trust the quarterback. Defensively, I mean, they lost their coordinator. He's now the head coach of the Denver Broncos. You have to wonder if that'll play a role. But let's get into the specifics now of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The biggest strength that they list, and I say they, the Pro Football Focus folks, say the 2018 was far from Ben Roethlisberger's finest, but the Steelers have a shot as long as Roethlisberger's under center. Despite his proclivity for putting the ball in harm's way, the Steelers quarterback logged 42 big-time throws, second to only Patrick Mahomes, and his big-time throw percentage of 6.49 was good for fourth among the 30 quarterbacks who threw 300 or more passes. So, guys, do you agree or disagree that the biggest strength in 2019 is going to be number 7, Big Ben Roethlisberger? Dave, we'll start with you.
Oh, it has to be. That's just kind of how it goes. It's been that way for a while. Everything goes through Ben. So how many times does it really come down to whether or not the Steelers win the game is if Ben's having a good game or not? You can get by if they're having problems rushing the ball or if one of the receivers is having problems catching the ball. But if Ben's having a bad game, that's the position as much as it is the person.
What about you, Brian? What do you think?
Ben has big shoulders. He really needs to show them off this year. He's going to. I believe it. I think they live or die with Ben. Of course, they need the defense to step up as well, but it all starts with Ben. So I agree with Dave. I agree with you.
Okay, so it's tough to disagree with the biggest strength. Biggest weakness, it says, once a jewel in the defense-heavy AFC North, the Steelers' secondary failed to live up to expectations. Pittsburgh's cornerbacks and safeties combined to allow a passer rating of 99.5 on throws into their coverage. That rank wasn't just tied for the 20th in the league, it was also the team's second worst single-season mark of the PFF era or since 2006. Of the 8 players who have played at least 100 snaps last season, only Joe Hayden graded above 70. So the Steelers will be looking for improvement there next season. Do you agree with the Pro Football Focus guys of saying the biggest weakness is the Steelers secondary? Let's go with Bryan Anthony Davis.
Yes, it is the biggest weakness. I don't think it's as big as last year, though. I think they've done a lot of improvements there. I'm really happy with the improvements, Steven Nelson being one of them. Just the fact that you have a guy like Terrell Edmonds with an entire year under his belt. He took most of the snaps, if I'm not mistaken, and Dave could probably help me out with this one, but I think he took all of the snaps on defense last year, hardly ever came out. This guy has grown. Sean Davis is in a contract year, and then you do have Joe Hayden, who is up there in age, but he is still a above average cornerback and a team leader on that defense. So yes, it's their biggest weakness, but that's good because that weakness is getting a whole heck of a lot stronger. Dave,
what are your thoughts?
When it comes to the snap count, were you saying Edmonds or Davis?
Edmonds.
Edmonds. He had a ton of snap counts But he didn't play much in week 1. Other than that, he was really high up there. Sean Davis had done almost every snap of the season until he missed week 17. So the two safeties did log the most snaps on the defense, even though they each, well, Davis missed a game and Edmonds basically didn't play much week 1. But I think the biggest thing about the Steelers secondary is, I'm going to say, is unproven. I like their potential, but it's potential, and you know what Jeff says about potential. It just means that you haven't done it, but they haven't. But I think with Steven Nelson, you could see an improvement this year. But I think because it hasn't happened, that's true. That this is their biggest weakness.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the defensive side of the football, which is going to be the side that you look for with a weakness, inside linebacker is also a big question mark there too. And I'm sure they have the Pro Football data to back up their secondary pick, but at the same time, we don't know about Devin Bush. We don't know about Mark Barron. There's a lot of question marks there, almost, in my opinion, as many question marks as there is about the secondary. So let's get to the third part and the final part of their Pro Football Focus breakdown, and that's the X factor for 2019. They say that is none other than Juju Smith-Schuster. This is what they say. Now that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell have taken their talents elsewhere, this passing attack's hopes rest on the shoulders of the third-year receiver. The USC product had a breakout season last year, as his 384 receiving yards from deep passes, which is a pass of over 20 yards or more, were ninth most in the entire league, while his 660 yards after the catch was the best single-season mark by receiver since Julio Jones in 2015. It appears the sky is the limit for Smith-Schuster, and he'll have to show he can do it as a true number one in 2019. This is a tough one. I think tougher than the other two. Would you agree that the X factor, offense or defense, falls on Juju's shoulders? Let's go with Bryan first.
I think he's so important next year, but my X factor is Chris Boswell. Actually, that kicking game had a lot to do with that 2018 season going the way it did. Had a lot to do with the way the 2017 season went the way it did with that 13-3 record. So I really think Boswell needs to turn around. But as far as Juju goes, yes, he needs to prove that he's a number one wide receiver. I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. I think he has the tools. I think he's doing everything. The only thing he doesn't have, of course, is Antonio Brown. But if he has something from Dante Moncrief, something from Deontay Johnson, something from Ryan Switzer, as well as, I'm missing one there, and it's James Washington. So if he has something from those guys to just take the onus and the target off of his back, then he's going to be fine, and he's going to put up those numbers. And Vance McDonald's going to take a lot of pressure off of him too. So I really don't think he's the complete X factor. I'm giving it to Boswell.
What about you, Dave?
I like Bryan's answer. My answer was going to be what you had just said, at inside linebacker, because there's just such a chance for it to be such a big thing, but it's so unknown that you don't know about Bush, you don't know about Barron, that it could be a strength or it could be your biggest weakness. That's to me is what would make that an X factor. But I really like Bryan's of Boswell. To go and follow up with what he's saying about Juju, he's spot on that of what you just kind of need from everyone else. Between all those other receivers and McDonald, really all you need is one guy that really steps up and has a fantastic year, and two of them to turn out to be pretty decent. That alone right there is going to take it off of Juju big time. That's just how it, and there's so many possibilities. Is it going to be Moncrief? Is it going to be Washington? Is it going to be Deontay Johnson? Is it going to be, could it be one of the slot guys in Switzer or Rogers, or is it going to be McDonald? It could be any of them, but just one of the guys that could come through and be big time. So, Bryan, I think we've lost Jeff. So, and now I think Jeff might be back.
Well,
you might as well just call me Lance Williams, I swear. Yeah, I asked the question in the live chat about the X Factor, and I wanted to get people's thoughts on who they thought. And a lot of people said, someone said Vince Williams. I could see that. Dante Moncrief, someone else said. This vodka drinker says my X factor is Coach Tomlin winning a challenge flag this year. That's something he hasn't done in a while. But then he said his inside linebacker play would be the one that he would say. For me, I'm gonna go, and I know that I can't remember, I think it's Ali who's always in the live chat that always makes fun of me for saying this, but I'm gonna go a different route and say James Washington. Because to me, they talk about Juju being the X factor. Juju can't be the X factor if James Washington and or Dante Moncrief. So you could technically, in my opinion, lump these two guys together if they're not doing their job and getting open. They're not getting open and making plays, and by all means, it's going to be tough sledding for Juju Smith-Schuster. There's so many different X factors. This Pittsburgh Steelers team is excited as I want to be about them. There's a lot that scares me to death. And I know I'm not alone out there. I am the eternal optimist. Those that know me know that I am the eternal optimist. But at the same time, this team, there's so many question marks surrounding this team. Whether it's Chris Boswell, as Bryan mentioned, whether it's the inside linebacker play, and we don't know what we have there, whether it's can someone else outside of Juju Smith-Schuster step up? Is the offensive line going to continue to just be as dominant as they have been, or will age start to creep in with some of these players like Pouncey and Foster? The secondary, are they going to actually be as advertised? All these questions just continue to come through my head, and it could be good or bad. I mean, it's a fine line between winning or losing in the National Football League. Look at 2017. How many of those games did everything kind of go their way, 13-3? Last year, it seemed like everything kind of went against them, 9-6-1. So I would love to sit here on this show and say I think this team's going to be dominant. They're going to come out and they're going to stomp mud holes in people. I just don't see it happening, at least not early. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to grind out wins, and we'll see what this team's made of, because they did lose a lot. They lost a lot of production. That's important. While the team might be better in terms of the team atmosphere, I think that ultimately it's going to be really interesting to see how this 2019 team shapes up. So let's go ahead and let's switch gears and go over to the Stat Geek segment with Dave. Hopefully my internet connection will stay strong throughout this segment, because I know he prepped me earlier. He said, wait till you hear the Stat Geek. It's going to be great. So take it away, Dave.
Oh, you're just going to love it because it's a lot of fun. And that was something I kind of mentioned with the whole Tyreek Hill thing, is that I was looking up Vegas odds today and how they are really the biggest factor in week one of the NFL right now is whether or not he's going to be playing for the Chiefs because of the uncertainty there. But here's what I did. I just decided, you know what? Boy, it would be nice to head to a wonderful gaming facility and be this time of year that I'd love to. While everyone's kind of down on the Steelers, take advantage of some of these lines that the Steelers might be facing this year. So I decided I was going to look up all the Vegas lines for all the Steelers games this year. Now, there's only one problem, is that you guys may or may not know this, that they will not give a line for week 17.
Right.
I think because of the whole notion of who's going to be resting and things like that, they won't do it this far in advance. But I was kind of able to estimate what that line would be. So I went through, and if you guys remember, not by game, but what's the prediction Vegas-wise for the number of wins for the Steelers for 2019? You guys remember what that is?
Isn't it 9?
I was thinking 9.
Book? 9
it
or
is
9.5?
You were exactly right. It is 9. But here's the better question. How many games right now of their 15 games that are there are the Steelers favored to win if you were going to be putting money on them right now?
I'm going to go. I'm going to say
Sorry,
12.
that was for Felicia.
I'm going
to say 12?
I'm going to say 12.
Okay. What do you think, Bryan?
He's looking up the odds right now. Hold on.
He probably is. Cheater.
Actually, I'm on the live chat. I'm checking out the live chat for the first time ever. It's not looking good for Bryan, I'll tell you that. I'll go around where Jeff is at maybe 11.
You guys you're real close, because there's 2 games right now that the Steelers have as pick'ems. They are 0 line. So what they have now by game is 10 wins, 2 pick'ems, and 3 games that they're not favored. So you have any idea what games would be pick'em games right now? And I'll give you a hint. One's on the road and one's at home.
Is the first game against the Ravens at home or on the road?
The first game against the Ravens is at home.
I'm going to say that's a pick'em game.
All Brian, do you have any? Okay, do you want me to respond to it, or do you want to try to?
Bryan can guess.
The first game against the Ravens.
That's
he
what
thinks would be a pick'em game.
Okay,
Vegas wise,
it is at home, and that's week 5, I think. If I'm not
you are correct. Yes,
and you know what? I mean, recently, that's got to be a pick'em game because recently they've been winning in each other's stadium.
That game, it's funny because I'm actually using that game to help predict what they would have for week 17 at Baltimore. That game against Baltimore, they have the Steelers at -3. So they basically say that Baltimore and Pittsburgh are a pick'em on a neutral field.
Yeah.
Because as we know, you get 3 points for home field. So basically to move from home to away is a 6-point swing. So I estimated that the week 17 game that they would be picked to be at +3, because if you follow that formula, and that formula does follow with Cincinnati and Cleveland perfectly with that 6. So that is not a pick'em game now. The Steelers are favored at home in every game except for the one pick'em game. And so who do you think would be the best team that they have them facing at home?
The Rams.
That would be the Rams. They have the Rams as a pick'em game.
Okay.
That is in week 10. Now, obviously, that'll change sometime between now and then. The other pick'em game is actually week 3.
At 49ers.
Yep.
At the 49ers. They have that as a pick game. But if you're a pick'em on the road, that's not a bad place to be. That's saying that they think you're the better team. They just don't know if you're that much of a better team. Now, when it came to the Patriots opened at 6.5, but it has since moved. +6.5. It has since moved to +6. That's really the only one that's moving because that's all they're really doing. My question is this. Oh, one more. Which game do you think the Steelers are favored by the most? Or do you think they're most favored to win?
Arizona.
That's in Arizona. I'm going to say home against Cincinnati.
Oh, that's close. That was only off by 1 point. Home against Cincinnati is -9. The Steelers actually do have one where they are -10. And that would
Arizona, is it?
That is not Arizona. That would be the game that now appears to be that I am going to be attending.
Monday Night Football, Miami?
Oh,
yes, Monday night against Miami. The reason it looks like I might, Brian, thank you very much. I think you're the reason I'm going to be attending this game, because I was talking to my father this weekend, who we haven't gone to a game together for a couple of years, because he told me, yeah, I'm getting too old. I just don't think I'm going to do it anymore. Just don't worry about it anymore. So I thought I was done going to games with my dad. And then talking to him this weekend, he's like, you know what? I've never been to a Monday night game. He's like, do you think maybe I could go to that? And I'm like, after reading Brian's article on Father's Day, absolutely. I will go with I don't care if I get home at 4:30 in the morning. I will go anytime I can with my father to a game. So right now I'm planning on going to that Miami game.
That's awesome.
Here's the last exercise with this that I want to do. I'll read these out for the podcast. I'm actually going to send them to you guys here in the little chat thing that we have. I'm going to give you the line of every game. And what I want from you is I want a 3-game parlay bet.
Okay.
Meaning you're going to pick the 3 games that you are the most confident in that they will cover, or whatever it is, and we're gonna write these down and see how we do. And who knows, if I get a chance, I might even place the bet for you guys.
Could you push that back?
So what's that, Jeff?
Hold on, Brian. If you take your cursor over the screen, go to the top left, and it'll pop up on a sidebar.
I just was letting you guys see these as I'm going to read them for the podcast so people have an idea, so that way you guys can mull this over a little bit.
We're taking the with the spread. So we're not taking
spread.
straight up. So we're taking
with the spread.
Gotcha. Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
So here we go. We have at New England, it is currently +6. Home against Seattle, -3. At San Francisco is a pick'em. Home against Cincinnati, -9. Home against Baltimore, -3. At the Chargers, +4.5. Then we have the bye week. Then home against Miami is a -10. Home against Indy is -2.5. Home against the Rams is a pick. At Cleveland is +2.5. At Cincinnati is -3. Home against Cleveland is -3.5. Home against Buffalo, -7. At the Jets, -1.5. And there is no week 17, but I'm going to give it to you by my own calculations right now. It would be a +3, but let's not do that one because I couldn't go place that bet now if I wanted to. As you guys are thinking, I just want to note one more thing. Notice Cleveland, +2.5 on the road, -3.5 at home. That means they would have the Steelers -0.5 at a neutral site. So although they say that Cleveland's going to win the division and win more games, individual game wise, they do not have Cleveland as a better team than Pittsburgh.
And there's a lot of 3-game parlays I see here.
And they don't have to be 3 in a row, just any 3.
Oh, I'm looking at 3 in a row. I'm looking at like
we could do it both ways.
I'm looking at like the horse betting, the trifecta, where you got to get them 1, 2, 3 in a row. Okay, Brian, what are your thoughts here? You're looking. I'm very peculiar with my pick'em. So, Brian, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What's your 3-game parlay?
I like Seattle at home for the home opener, -3. I'll go ahead and take that. I know Seattle's a good team, but they have a lot of young talent on that team. They don't have a wide receiving core that is really anything to worry about. So I would go with that. Indianapolis at home, -2.5. I think that's a game that they could go ahead and win as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and it's between Buffalo and the Jets. And I'm going to go, even though it's on the road, I'm going to go at the Jets, -1.5.
Okay. I was looking at 3 games chunked together. So I'll give you some of the ones that I thought. I like Bryan Seattle coming across the country, the Steelers opening up at home, only giving 3. I like that. I would take the Steelers to cover. I love the pick 'em at San Francisco. I know that they're on the West Coast, but I just think that the Steelers will be able to beat them at least by 1 point. They don't have to cover a spread. It's just a straight up pick. So I would take the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Cincinnati at home, -9. Even though that spread is big, I like the Steelers at home. I think it's their first divisional game. I think they could win that one. Another stretch that I liked was give me Pittsburgh at Cleveland +2.5 on Thursday Night Football. Give me them versus Cincinnati -3 in Cincinnati because we know how Roethlisberger plays in the state of Ohio. And then give me them Cleveland -3.5 at home at Heinz Field as well. If you don't like the Cleveland Thursday night matchup, let's look at Cincinnati -3, Cleveland -3.5, Buffalo -7. I like that 3-game stretch as well. It's tempting to say Miami -10, Indy -2.5. Or would you consider the bye week as a part of that, Dave, if I'm trying to get the 3 games straight?
Well, guys, I missed one in there. I just realized I have it here on my notes, but when I typed it up right as we were starting the show, I missed one. I skipped right over one.
What's
Between Cleveland and Buffalo, there's at Arizona that's -3.5, which is another good one, actually.
That is a good one. That's tasty. You could do Cleveland, Arizona -3.5, Buffalo -7 as well.
I'm so sorry that I missed that one because I didn't read it out on the show either.
I'm not touching at the New York Jets -1.5. I'm not touching the LA Rams pick 'em, and that's not going to be pick 'em by the time they play the game. And I'm really not interested in touching the LA Chargers +4.5.
No way.
Just not interested in that. I'm not interested in really Baltimore either because we know how those games are. They're spread killers. You think you got them pinned down and they weasel their way into 10 more points, and next thing you know, they cover. I really do like that San Francisco pick 'em. And that's it. Before I get turned to you, Dave, and let you say what you think, my goodness, if you all are listening to this and you are of the gambling variety, whether it's FanDuel's Gamble, they have a sports book now, or whether you're going to an actual casino and placing bets or just online, if you like these odds, get your money on them now because they're moving, and especially the early games, every injury. They talked about Tyreek Hill. Everything that happens, these are going to change. So if you're looking at this saying, holy crap, San Francisco week 3 at San Francisco is a pickup game, no spread involved, you might want to jump on that. And you might want to put some money down the Steelers to win if you think that's what's going to happen. But Dave, what do you think?
Well, I kind of went a little bit of different route there with you. I kind of agreed a little bit with Bryan. I did mine beforehand. I picked it before you guys could have done it. I like the home against Indy at -2.5. I like that. I think just a field goal win there could do that one. I also like the at Cincinnati at -3. That all they have to do is win by more than a field goal in Cincinnati, the way they normally play Cincinnati better in their stadium. I'll take that one. And shockingly, I am going to take at the Jets at -1.5 because I think that line is going to move big time in the Steelers' favor. I think by the time that game comes around, that's going to be -4.5 or higher. So I'd want to act on that. I was maybe looking at these are things I want to act on now before they would move so much.
Okay,
so those were the three.
Here's a quick follow-up to this, and it's easy for us because we have it in front of us. Which of these lines do you think is going to move the most but before they actually kick off the game? You said the Jets. I wouldn't be shocked if that one moves a ton. Bryan, what do you think?
The Rams.
Okay, so you think which way you think it's going to swing?
I think it's going to swing. I mean, the Steelers will, even though they're at home in that game, they will not be favored.
They'll be getting points. Okay, I could see the Buffalo line moving a lot. You figure if they're not playing well, if they're almost out of contention that late in the season, that could be a double-digit point spread for the Pittsburgh Steelers there. I could see the Chargers spread moving down a little bit, going down to 3 and not 4.5, just depending on how things go. So I love talking about this stuff. I could do an entire show on odds and gambling and stuff because
I knew you would. I told you to look forward to it. I'm
not a big gambler. I love doing the daily fantasy. I'm not a sportsbook guy. I love talking about it. I love trying to predict the spreads because it makes it interesting. I was once a guy that won a pick'em league when the Peyton Manningless Colts went into New England, and I put it was the way we wagered for this league. I put all my chips in on the Colts to cover a 22.5 point spread, and they almost won that. They almost won that game outright. They didn't even need the points. It was incredible. I love this stuff. It's so much fun for me.
Yeah. I was going to say one other one that jumps out at me is I still think that Miami one's kind of high.
I agree with you.
I think Miami might be better than Cincinnati, and yet they have Miami as the worst one. So,
yeah.
Who knows?
But seriously, if people were out there thinking about putting money on the Steelers, my gosh, some of these lines are really favorable.
Now is the time to do it when people were down on them. That's why I wanted to bring this up, because right now the odds are ever in your favor.
And you know what? Keep them down. Keep busting everybody. Maurice Jones-Drew, everybody keep busting on the Steelers. That's only going to band these guys together even more with a Mr. Chip on his shoulder, Ben Roethlisberger. That's what you want. I'm telling you, keep busting on these guys. Go put your money down, but don't put too much on them.
How much? How many of you guys are going to put money on the Steelers week 1 getting 6?
Week 1 getting 6. That's not one I'd jump all over, because that's the one that everyone's focused on. The way I look at it is, it's funny because I try to convince my wife to let me do this. If I want to do sports betting, I want to bet line movement. I want to take a large wager. Like right now, let's look at the Jets -1.5. I think it's going to go the other way. So I now on the Steelers. Then if that line moves big time, put the same bet on the Jets at like -6.5. And then that way, no matter what, I win one of them. And if they are in the range in the middle, I win them both. So I can't lose. I can only win or tie.
Guys, my
Yeah.
smoke alarm just went off because my brain's sizzling after that.
Really? You haven't thought about ever doing that?
Oh, gosh.
Rather than think about who's going to win and who, if they're going to cover, is which way the line will move. I've looked at this and just done it for fun for myself. I'm like, oh, I'd put my money on the Steelers right now because that line's going to move more in their favor, and then go and just see. And I'd say probably 75% of the time I would break even because it's not that you're going to lose. But then when you win, it's a double win. That's the way I would do it if I lived in Las Vegas and walked into a casino every day.
There you go. There you go. All right. Hey, good Stack Geek segment. I like that. I love talking odds, and we'll probably maybe revisit some of that stuff as the season gets closer and see how the lines have changed. That'll be worth noting. Let's talk about now the final draft pick in the 2019 NFL draft. We've been highlighting every player one a week, and we're at number 9. That's the University of Maryland. He's a Terrapin, and that's Derwin Gray. Now, Derwin Gray, the title of the episode that I gave this was how Derwin Gray's versatility is going to help him solidify a spot on the 53-man roster. Now, before people hear this, this is a 7th-round pick. How in the heck is he going to make the team? Here's the thing. I think that if Derwin Gray can prove that he's capable of both right tackle and left tackle, right guard and left guard, you'll have to talk to me. You have to convince me how he won't make the team, not how he will make the team. Because if you have a player that can play swing tackle and swing guard, in my opinion, he's almost invaluable. Zach Banner, big man. I don't think he can play guard. Chuks Okorafor, can he play guard? Gerald Hawkins, they tried him out at guard so far in offseason workouts. If this guy can prove worthy at all 4 positions, and that's not easy, I'm not saying it's a gimme, I think he makes a spot on the 53-man roster. Dave, you're our offensive line guru. You coached it when you were coaching. Your thoughts on Derwin Gray, his versatility, and his shot at making this team?
I think he has a shot to earn his way onto the team. He's going to have to earn it. It's not going to be one of these, to me, once you get to about the 5th round is when these guys aren't guaranteed to have a spot. I think he would be a good practice squad guy. I think there's a lot of factors here. You could look at it if things fall out the way that they do, that it could be him versus Banner, and it would be his versatility that would put him in over top of him. But the other thing to look at it is if something happens where Chuks wins the starting right tackle guard, then you've got that versatility with Filer as a backup, which you don't want to have to bank on him moving down to guard if he's already your starting tackle. So it really depends on who wins that job. To have another person, they've got to have someone other than BJ Finney that can play guard if you're going to keep 9 offensive linemen. So if he can do it, that really shoots his odds up of making the team. And then somebody like Banner is who, although I really like him, I think he's a beast, he's a monster. The problem is that's a lot of guys trying to play tackle. So there's a path, but there's a lot of other factors than just his play that go into it.
What about you, Bryan? What do you think?
I think Gerald Hawkins is one guy that depends how he does here. This is his make or break year. He's been injured a lot. If he gets out of camp, that might be for Derwin Gray, and Derwin Gray would probably end up on the practice squad. But this guy is a very good blocker, especially a big run blocker. He was on a line that had 4 different 100-yard rushers. They even had 444 yards in one game against Bowling Green. The 17th best rushing attack in the country. So he's a grinder. He's a paver. He could if he has a good camp, they're gonna seriously consider keeping this guy.
It's going to be interesting
to watch.
He has a chance. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out in training camp, because for me, I look at this and say, if they have all this potential at tackle, the tackle play in the National Football League is not tremendous. And so if Zach Banner has a great preseason, but they like what they have in Derwin Gray or Chooks Okorafor and even Gerald Hawkins. Maybe they could trade one of these guys and get a pick or get another player back. It all comes down to how they perform, obviously, but ultimately I think that it's a situation where right now they're loaded in depth at the tackle position, which is kind of laughable considering there's other positions where their cupboard is super, super bare. But nonetheless, it's a position that they covet. They take care of that position. And so we'll see if Derwin Gray makes the team. Now, real quick, rapid fire. Dave, gut instinct, Derwin Gray makes the team, yes or no?
That's so hard because we haven't really seen anything from him because in OTAs, you don't hear anything much about linemen. You don't hear much about defensive line because they're basically playing 7-on-7. So we haven't seen anything, and he's a 7th-round pick. I think I'm going to say no just because I haven't seen him. But honestly, I think he's got a really good chance. He's just got to prove it.
All right, Bryan, what about you? Does he make the team, yes or no?
Yes, he's making this team, Dave.
I am going to agree with Bryan here. I think he does make the team. If he doesn't, I think they're going to try their best to get him on the practice squad. He's a player that would be great in that capacity if you give him another like a redshirt year type thing, but I think they want him on the actual team. So, all right. This is the time of the show where if you're in the live chat right now, we're going to take a few questions. The gambling segment went a little bit long. That's not Dave's fault. That's my fault. I love talking about gambling. So we're going to take some questions at the end of the show before we get into our either or. And my either or is Steelers related, and I think it would be good for the live chat. So if you have questions and you want them answered, you can go ahead and fire them away in the live chat. Now, if you didn't know, and I say this at every single show that we're on, you can use the super chat feature. If you're chatting, you have the little chat publicly. The place where you type in your question on the right is a little $sign. You can put in any amount of money. I call it the tip jar. And all that money goes directly to the show. Obviously, I've had people ask, well, what does that go? Where does that money go? It doesn't just go into thin air. It goes into an account. Once that account hits a threshold, we can then use that, obviously, for the show, for we want to do giveaways this year, more giveaways. We want to sell shirts. We may give away some shirts for free, stuff like that. That money's going to help with that. So, okay.
After this show, it's going to Vegas.
Nah, see, that's about right. We're going to parlay that money into a different bet.
That's what I was going to say. Give me the parlay with that money.
Okay, so Ron asks the guys, what are your thoughts on the X factor on defense being Devin Bush? Bryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, he really is because he's the guy to come in and solidify the middle of the defense, take over where Mr. Shazier left off prematurely. So, yeah, I really think he is the X factor there.
Bryan? I'm Dave, sorry.
I'm going to say no because the whole reason it's set up is that if he has a rough rookie year, they brought in Mark Barron, who hopefully can get the job done. That if he does great, that's fantastic. But if he doesn't, and if he struggles and has a little bit of a learning curve, which I don't think he's going to, but if he does, they're still okay. So that's the one reason I wouldn't call him the X factor.
Okay. Someone asked, how do you think the defense is going to look this year? I'm going to change it up a little bit. And that is, here's the question. Will the defense be a top 5 unit in 2019, Bryan?
I'm thinking they're going to be a top 10 unit, actually, but not top 5.
Okay, so no. Dave?
So no.
I think Bryan's pretty much right on. I think they're going to flirt with that 5th spot. But I think they can get close to it. They could sneak into it. I don't know that they're going to come on so strong that they're going to be like 2 or 3. So that would be a good over under. Got to remember that one for weeks to come of exactly where they are going to finish in total defense. I'll save that.
Okay, I'm going to say they make it at number 5, top 5. They'll be 5th. Snowman, this is a tough question. Everyone has a different thought on it, but will Ryan Shazier ever play football again? We'll go with Dave first.
Oh, I'm not going to count him out. I don't think he's ever going to play football to the level that he was before the injury, but I'm not going to count him out that he could get to a point when even almost ceremoniously make it to where he could be on the field for special teams. But I don't know that he can come all the way back to where he was. But boy, I'm not going to bet against him. So I'm going to say sure.
All right, Bryan.
My heart says yes. My head just says no because of the gravity of the injury. But here's the thing: we could not say that this guy. We could not poo-poo any of this guy's dreams. We got to let him keep reaching for that carrot and reaching for the stars. Because I mean, if anybody could do it, like Dave said, this guy can. If I'm thinking with my head, no.
All I'm going to say is this: when he was injured in 2017 in December, the doctor said there's probably no chance that he'll ever be able to walk normally again. Now, if you've seen him walk, there's a little bit of a hitch in his gait still. And when I'm talking about the gait, it's obviously the way his feet move. Everyone has their own natural gait when they walk. But he's already, I mean, he doesn't share a lot. And I'm glad he doesn't, because he shares the big stuff, the milestones, the jump boxes, the deadlifts. I think that he is going to get his body back to a point where if he wants to play, he can. It's just a matter of whether he wants to again. And he's married now. They have 2 young children. He might get to the point where he says, you know what? I feel like I got my body back to where I could. I'm able to live a normal life, but I'm also not willing to put my body in harm. I'm going to leave that up to him. I'm going to say that no, he does not play again, but it's not because he's not capable. We'll put it that way. And that was from Snowmails of $5 in the tip jar. We appreciate that. Varus has put another $1.99 in the tip jar. How do you think the defense will look this year? Just kind of answered that a little bit. We both said that all of us said top 10. I said they'll be 5th. So I said top 5. I think that here's a question. We'll spin this so that we give Varus the money worth here. Sacks, over or under the mark of 50 for this upcoming season. Bryan, over or under 50 sacks?
We're going over.
Dave.
I'm going to say under because they've never done it 3 years in a row.
I knew you were going to
say
that.
I'm going to go with 48.
All right. I'm going to say under as well. But I think that could mean that the defense is actually better. They don't have to sell out. I was reading an article today, I can't remember where it was, where it talked about how a conservative approach could actually be a better approach for the Steelers because they don't have to sell out to get to the quarterback, and it could actually mean that they're a better defense because of it. Isaac, he puts $10 in the tip jar. He says, just donating. I love the show, guys. Got to rewatch what I missed. Thank you. As always, Isaac, we really appreciate that. But he says he does have a question, and just below that, do you think that the Steelers go back to its run, pass in terms of run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down, and just really give teams hell on defense? So let's talk about the first part of the question. Do you see the Steelers going into 2019 with an offensive, I guess, searching for an offensive identity that is running the football early and downs, or do you think they're just going to be a see what the defense gives us, and we're going to run the play according to that? Dave, we'll start with you.
That's generally a lot of times their formula, sometimes early on in a game. Each game, it really depends on their game plan. You can see what their game plan is in the first drive if they think this is going to be a run-heavy game or a pass-heavy game. And their first 3 plays they run tells you what they've studied and what they think. That's the key that you really want to look at every game. If you come out and you get 2 out of your first 3 plays or runs, then you know that's something they're going to want to try to do until they can't do it. If they come out spread on the very first play, you know they're just trying, that they think the weakest thing they're going against is a pass. I think the key is balance, and balance is not doing an even amount of both. Balance is being able to do either one based on the weakness of your opponent. So my thing is, I think that identity needs to be, let's find what they're the worst at, and we're going to do that to them. Did
you put that in my think tank article this week that was about balance? You probably didn't.
Don't even, I saw a think tank article I'm like, I don't know what that was supposed to be.
It's a think tank. You think tank. Everyone puts their thoughts together. It's a discussion article. I bring up a topic, and people go in the comments and they discuss it. And that was one of it. Is offensive balance even a possibility in today's National Football League? Was the topic of discussion. It was some really good discussion. That's like some pure football discussion in this article. So you have to check that out. Brian, what do you think though about the running versus pass that Isaac brought up?
First of all, how do you follow Dave's answer on that one? It's like Ray Parker Jr. trying to go on after the Beatles play. That was a great answer. The only thing I have to say about that is they're going to run more, but they still have Ben. They have a lot to prove with that wide receiving core. They still have talent there. They're going to maybe 3 or 4% more, but it's not going to be overwhelming as far as just a ground and pound.
All right, next question. Varus, $1.99 in the tip jar. Do you think Big Ben wins MVP this year? Brian.
Big Ben's never going to win the MVP. This league will not let him. The sports writers will not let him. It's never going to happen. He is going to have an MVP caliber year, but nope.
All right, Dave.
I'm going. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I'm going with team MVP. No. League MVP. No, the league will never let him do it, like Brian said. Super Bowl MVP. I'll go with yes on that one.
I like the way Dave thinks. This is a great question.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a great question to finish up our Q&A segment, and that is from SourcePlaya65. Which defensive player would make more of a difference by showing big improvement this year? Terrell Edmonds or Bud Dupree? That's a tough question. So which, if they make
That's a great question. That is a fantastic question.
So which would obviously make the bigger impact if they take a huge step forward? Brian, you look like you're ready to go. Go ahead.
Wow, that is so good. I really think it's Bud, just because this is that contract year for him. The fact that he is really it all comes down to his performance this year. So it's desperation time for Bud. I really, if he has a great year, that team on defense is going to have a great year as well. If everybody stays healthy, that will be amazing if they can get what they can out of Bud Dupree. Terrell Edmonds, I think, is going to have a good year as well. I think he is going to improve. A lot of people have been down on him, but he still has a little more time. But Bud is in desperation mode.
What about you, Dave?
I'm glad you asked Brian first. I was trying to remember, what was that name of that show they used to do on ESPN years ago where they were trying to like audition sportscasters? And the one thing is, no matter what the first person said, you had to disagree with the next thing. So I would just go take whatever answer Brian didn't say. So I'm going to go with Edmonds. And here's my argument is that we saw in years past when they had Troy Polamalu how a prolific safety can just change that defense. So if Edmonds he doesn't even have to be Troy Polamalu, but if he makes that big step to where you have that safety threat, you know, in whichever way, whether it's Troy Polamalu like, whether it's Ed Reed like, whether it's Earl Thomas like, who are all three different players. Just known as a defensive threat, I think that could make more of an impact. Although I do really like the answer of Dupree, because if you can imagine Dupree really coming on with Watt on the other side, my goodness, teams are in trouble.
Plus, you know what? If I could jump on that real quick, then Jeff will have another duo to put in his article on the greatest outside linebackers in Pittsburgh Steelers history, whether it be Woodley and Harrison or whether it would be Green and Lloyd, Little Quiver and Quake. So I'm pimping you there, Jeff, but that would be an extra one you could do.
I was on that one today. I read that one.
I'm just glad that you actually read the articles on the site, unlike the other guy on the show.
Come come on. Just because I saw that one, I'm like, think tank. I don't think that has anything to do with me. I'm going to skip this one.
That has everything to do with you. You're an analytical mind. That's all they were talking about. Where stats, it was great. It was a great discussion.
I've got to then go back and jump in.
I've run two of those actually. One was one was position versatility. How important is it? And then also the second one was the run pass balance on offense. So
frankly,
yeah.
I'm offended that I wasn't the person who was asked to be the think tank. So I'm just letting it go.
Well, if I got enough articles from you, that would be a difference. Let's not air our dirty laundry here, guys. All right. So
notice I'm quiet. I'm not saying a word.
So I think that obviously I'm going to go with Edmonds based on what I said a few minutes ago, and that was that I think this year the Steelers defense won't have to be so reliant on sacking the quarterback. Not that that's a bad thing, but sometimes just getting pressure. And that's Lance and I talked about that on the Standard as a Standard a few episodes ago, that sometimes it's just getting pressure on the quarterback, forcing an errant throw and taking advantage of a mistake. I think Edmonds could be more of a factor in that case. But I think either one of these guys obviously could really, really help their cause. Now, let's get into either or. And the reason I move right into this segment is because Bryan just brought up my either or. I was going to reference the article that I wrote today, and that was something. Let's be honest. At this time of year, there's no news, so you have to create news. And I'm not one to sit there and just create stupid stuff. I'm going to create stuff that I think about all the time because I think about the Steelers all the time. And I was thinking today, let's do a pick your poison series where you'd have two players or two groups and which was better and maybe which was worse. Maybe I'll do a championship game dud and Neil O'Donnell versus Cordell Stewart. Pick your poison. Both are bad for you, but you got to pick one. This one was good. It was when they went to a 3-4 defense. 3-4 defense. I don't want to hear Jack Ham stuff. Nothing against Jack Ham, but he wasn't a 3-4 outside linebacker. The bookend outside linebackers said which was better. We had, as the quiver and quake, the Lloyd and Green of the 1990s Blitzburg defense, and then we had Lamar Woodley and James Harrison when it came to those mid-2000 defenses that won Super Bowl 43. Which was better? Because there's a lot of fine points, and I made it a point to say in the article that you can't just rely on statistics because stats can be skewed in a number of ways to make your point, valid. You can do the eye test. You can talk about longevity because Kevin Green was not with the Steelers that long. Greg Lloyd played longer, but didn't have as many sacks as Green. So if you had to choose one or the other, and I have not checked this article since it ran around 3:30 to see the poll that's in there. If one of you guys could pull that up, that'd be great, and see what the voting was. But Bryan, I want to start with you because you were the one that kind of brought this up earlier. So either or, you're picking Green and Lloyd, or are you picking Woodley and Harrison?
Well, you know what? My favorite of the two would be Quiver and Quake. I just love Lloyd and I love Green. I love everything about that era and that time. But if you look at it and you look at a Super Bowl winning combo and how dominant these guys were, I've got to go with Debo and Woodley, especially what Woodley did in the postseason with all those games with multiple sacks. That guy was just an absolute monster for them. And then, Debo being a defensive player of the year as well, and that 16-sack season, I just don't think that could be overlooked. So that's why I'm going with 92 and great, I forgot his number already. 56. And I have that jersey, but 56.
All right, Dave, what do you think?
I think when I turn my Wi-Fi off on my phone to get better connection with my computer, I can't bring up the website to see the results of this poll. Sorry.
I'll look it up.
I'm going with, I just said, I watched the 95 Bears game last night in the middle of the night. So that is fresh in my mind. So it's not really a fair question. So I have to go with Green and Lloyd after having a refresher of that from last night. That was just, they instilled so much fear in everything going on. And then, I mean, you add Kirkland in the middle. That was something.
Okay. Before we get into this, can someone please tell me, why is the Steelers fan base, why did they hate on Lamar Woodley so much? He got the big contract. Don't blame him. That's not his fault. And then he had the hamstring issues that ended up leading to his demise in Pittsburgh. But man, you talk about Lamar Woodley amongst Steeler fans, and people get really angry. And they're like, oh my gosh, I hate Lamar Woodley. Well, why? I didn't think he was that bad. Guys, anyone want to chime in on this and let me know why Steeler fans don't like Lamar Woodley?
I know what I would say. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'll let you answer.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was going to say some people felt like once he got his contract, he wasn't putting forth the off-season efforts to keep his body in the shape it should be to give the best effort for the team. That was a common thing with a lot of the fan base, that they didn't feel like he was giving, that they saw what he could do, and then he got his contract, and they felt like he didn't put in the effort in order to live up to it.
Okay. I get that. Brian, you agree, disagree?
I think he got hurt, and they resented that, and a lot of our fans don't look at the person, but they look at the player, and they look at results, and they don't look at anything behind it. So, yeah, it's just that.
Well, it's some people in the live chat are saying that Woodley took plays off. They felt that he wasn't in good shape. I get all that. Still, I am going to go with Woodley and Harrison because I felt that when both were on their A game, you really couldn't stop both of them. I think back to the big plays made against the Ravens at times, and James Harrison when he was Defensive Player of the Year, he was unstoppable. And I felt like he was more unstoppable than Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd ever were. And that says a lot because those two players were great. But if I have to pick one, give me Lamar Woodley and give me Debo back in their prime when they're wreaking havoc. That's who I'll take there. So that was my either or for the week. I was just going to take that article, and I thought I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. And I'm glad we kind of all disagree a little bit. We all had different viewpoints. As of right now, 66% of the people that voted, which we had just over 500 votes, like I said, it ran this afternoon. They agreed with Dave, said Green and Lloyd. 66% over 34% for Lamar Woodley and James Harrison. And so that's interesting that's the way that it kind of unfolded, because a lot of times the more current players are the ones that win those polls. But that's my either or. Dave, I guess we'll go with you for your either or of the night.
All right, we are getting into the vacation seasoning, and I don't know about you all, but when I go on vacation, there's just times where sometimes we're just looking to do something special with the family on a day while we're enjoying stuff at other places. So I'm going to ask you this. You're going to have a choice of three. If you're going out for a good, fun activity while you're out on vacation, are you hitting up the mini golf course? Are you going for the laser tag? Or are you headed to the go-kart track?
You know where I'm going. I mean, my family is a family of golfers. We're going to the putt-putt course. It is extremely cutthroat. Between my brother and my dad, if we'll go. Now, recently, it's just been my dad and the kids, and so my dad and I will play left-handed, and just to make it fun and different. And the women hate it, but we go putt-putting. What about you, Brian?
Oh, I'm going to laser tag, and I'm going to just shoot them all. I mean, if it's one of my family members, they're on my team. I'm just going. That laser, they're done. Oh wow, I could just see me now.
What about you, Dave?
Well, it had to change on me because it used to be I was all about the go-karts because, man, I love the drive. I love the race. I know I'm a big guy, so you would think I would be really holding the thing back, but really no one could catch me. I could get that machine to do exactly what I wanted to do. But when we were out racing on a figure-8 track, not where it crosses, where there's a bridge and a tunnel, and you're going around, and sometimes it's tough to make the pass. You realize you've got to stick to the outside lane, but just because it's where you are to get around the person. But if you can get that run right off the corner from the outside lane, you can be up there, and you can get that inside lane on the turn to make the pass. And I had two different, I should say, younger family members that they they couldn't drive very well, and said it was my fault because I would pull that move and I would be up within, I'd be more than a half a car length up on them, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, he's coming," and they try to swerve to the inside when I'm already there. They get spun out, and Uncle Dave spun me out on the track. So I was told by my sister I was making it no fun. So I've decided to hang up the go-karts for a while. So I'm really a laser tag guy, because when my son, with a birthday party last year, he wanted to do laser tag, and I looked into how much it would be to rent equipment. It was cheaper. I went out. I've got 12 sets of my own laser tag. So if you guys ever want to have a VTSC laser tag, I even have some blinds that I made if I'm ever outside, that I can do my own Laser X laser tag, that you can do teams, you can do individual. We run around my house like crazy doing it until I get injured. And I have been twice running up and down steps doing laser tag within my house. But I'm with Bryan. I really like the laser tag.
All right. There you go. No one else is putting but me. That's fine. I don't want you all there anyways. Bryan, what's your either
it's
word?
hard to putt with the kids. I mean,
not if your kids are golfers like my kids. They love it.
Well, my son's a golfer. My daughter's not. I remember she makes the simple move of she goes up and hits the ball. I mean, and she's older than my son. She doesn't wait for it to stop and hits it again and takes about 6 shots, knocks it in the cup, and then turns to me in her best Batman voice and says, "First try."
Yeah, you gotta check out the live chat. Isaac just put $5 in the tip jar, saying that Dave's looking like Bowser on a go-kart from Mario.
Hey, that's my icon on our Nintendo Switch is Bowser, but really on Mario Kart, you don't want to mess with me in Mario Kart either. I'm just as vicious there. Wario's the guy to go with that
He's
one.
throwing shells out there at his young nieces and nephews.
That's a good one, Isaac. I like it.
If that's the case, then Vodka owes me $5 just for saying earlier in the show that I look like the creepy televangelist from the movie The Mechanic. So I think we should get $5 from him for throwing that out there if we're going to get Bowser from Mario Kart.
All right, Bryan, go ahead. What's your either word tonight?
All right, so it's a Steeler one, but it's Steeler wear. So you're going to get a novelty Steeler T-shirt from the past 20 years or so, and you're going to get a fun one. It's one that they sold outside of the stadium a lot. So you have your choice of 3, and one would be Greg Lloyd. He's back. I wasn't hired for my disposition. The famous Greg Lloyd shirt, the One Bad Malafala T-shirt, or the Where Was Ray Lewis When Joey Porter Got Shot T-shirt.
You have to pick one. You have to pick one. I'm gonna go with One Bad Malafala. I just thought that Foo was awesome. It's a shirt that's kind of I feel like I have a shirt right now. I only wear it when they get in the playoffs. It's from the 2005 playoff season. It says Believers. And
I have that.
BELEEVERS, and I get so sick and tired of hearing people say they spelled it wrong. And I'm like, no, it's because the Steelers and shut up already. I feel like, I wasn't hired for my disposition. People think, is that a football shirt? The Ray Lewis one, I get that. That's funny. But I'm going to go with One Bad Malafala, because I always loved Foo. I loved when everyone could say Chris Fumatu Malafala. It was just great. So that's what I take. What about you, Bryan? Dave, whatever.
How many times are you going to do that this show?
2.
You summed it up perfectly. I agree. The Malafala.
All right. What about you there, Bryan?
I wasn't hired for my disposition, boys.
I knew that's where you were going to go.
Oh yeah, you knew it. I'll go sleeveless and my clothes have always been the subject of talk, and especially tonight because somebody called my shirt, my 1979 family shirt, fugly, and which I haven't heard that word for a long time. But no, I love the Greg Lloyd shirt. I actually would like to get that signed. Get just the 8x10 of him wearing that T-shirt signed. I thought that summed up the player more than anything, and I would rock that shirt, guys.
Yeah, that's a good one. It is a good. They're all three good ones. But it's all great. So there you have it. That's our show, the Steelers preview. We're done with our 2019 NFL Draft preview. I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll figure something out. We're gonna do something.
We're taking the pod and going to Vegas, baby.
So, but anyone that participated in the live chat today, I apologize for any issues we had technically. Hopefully that the sound kept going. If not, we'll try to rectify that in the future. It's the first time it's happened this off season. So if you're a part of that, obviously we appreciate it. But naturally, if you don't follow us on YouTube, find us BTSC Steelers. I'm sorry, Bryan is really distracting me. BTSC Steelers Radio, and then obviously anywhere you download your podcast, you can find us. Just search Standard Steelers wherever. And BehindTheSteelCurtain.com should be your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers related. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Steelers Preview.